The word stalking probably evokes images of a serial killer wielding a knife in a slasher horror pic with a creepy soundtrack, or just an incompetent loser who breaks into his favorite celebrity's house to try on her underwear and sleep in her bed, which is why we now have the slang term stan or stalker fan. Wikipedia defines stalking as unwanted and or repeated surveillance by an individual or group toward another person, and the key word here is repeated. Though legal definitions of stalking vary depending on the jurisdiction, there appears to be pretty much universal agreement that stalking is by definition a repetitive crime that takes place over time. Stalking is a component of narcissistic abuse. Narcissists in romantic relationships stalk their ex-partners in ways that are deliberately intended to intimidate, harass, and bully their victims. But some people may engage in stalking behaviors without even realizing they're doing it, and their intent may be more benign. Because workplace bullying is a form of narcissistic abuse, workplace bullies do stalk their targets, both inside and outside of the workplace, and sometimes months and even years after the target has been eliminated from the workplace in ways that are beyond disturbing and downright scary. Stalking is a workplace bullying technique that exposes workplace bullies' pathological obsession with and addiction to the target. And it is also one technique that may sometimes be outright illegal. Surveillance is part of the definition of stalking because when workplace bullies stalk targets inside the workplace, that's what it looks like. It primarily takes the form of this sort of obsessive, prolonged monitoring of the target that goes way beyond any normal, natural, healthy curiosity about the target, and is also well outside the bounds of any established formal procedure or protocol that includes regular routine assessments of your work performance as part of the work process. One way in which workplace bullies stalk targets is through the use of the workplace bullying technique of staring, but staring becomes stalking when it turns into watching. Workplace bullies may literally station themselves directly outside your office, classroom, or other workspace and just stand there staring at you for very long periods of time, seemingly with the assumption that you don't realize what they're doing, which is a projection of their own complete lack of self-awareness. To monitor targets, workplace bullies also employ the strategic and not so subtle arrangement of office furniture and equipment by, for example, placing you directly in front of or outside the boss's office so you can be monitored more easily. I once had an employer who placed the only pencil sharpener available in the office directly behind my desk, so she had an excuse to periodically check out my computer screen throughout the day. Workplace bullies like to invent excuses on false pretenses to strategically walk past your workspace to check you out when it is not in their scope of work to do so, abandoning their own work in the process, and sometimes even inviting other workplace bullies to join them and come along for the ride to check out whatever is so interesting inside your workspace. Workplace bullies like to monitor targets by aggressively and abusively interrogating the target's clients by asking leading questions about your work performance. When it comes to stalking in the workplace, the big one is eavesdropping. Workplace bullies are master eavesdroppers. They love to eavesdrop. They can and do eavesdrop on absolutely everything that you say and everything that you do, and even go so far again as to arrange office furniture and equipment to make it easier to do so by, for example, leaving doors open, even positioning chairs outside your workspace and asking clients and colleagues to be quiet so they can eavesdrop more easily. Stalking in the workplace also takes the form of imitation. It's like the movie Single White Female. A workplace bully, usually of the same gender, begins to look like you, dress like you, style her hair like you, wear the same clothes and accessories, and eat like you. And of course, workplace bullies employ the workplace bullying technique of extortion and pass off your turns of phrase, your jokes, and your ideas without credit or attribution. Outside the workplace, workplace bullies stalk you on social media. And one of the more disturbing characteristics of a toxic, maladaptive, dysfunctional workplace environment, people who sit next to each other in offices and cubicles all day for 40 hours a week without giving each other the time of day, then proceed to go home and look each other up on Facebook. Workplace bullies also love to just sort of follow you around everywhere you go, inside and outside of the workplace. They will literally turn around and follow you into the kitchen and, yes, even the bathroom if they know you're going there, when they themselves have no need of those facilities and may have just used them themselves. They like to follow you to and from your car in parking garages and parking lots and invent false pretenses to accompany you on your commute. Outside the workplace, workplace bullies drive past your place of residence. And this is one of the few ways in which I think it is possible to protect ourselves from workplace bullying. No one you work with needs to know your address. If you must supply an address, for example, on your resume, on forms, in order to receive tax documents, or for whatever reason, try to use the address of a family member or a friend, parents or siblings, or take out a post office box in order to protect yourself. When workplace bullies are not satisfied with just the exterior of your residence, they invite themselves inside with repeated insistence, because workplace bullies as narcissists do not take no for an answer on coming over to your place outside of work hours, at night, on weekends, again on false pretenses, to drop off some much needed materials, for example, documents, when it is completely useless to do so and a complete waste of time. Workplace bullies stalk you outside the workplace most often after you have actually been separated from work and have been eliminated from the workplace. Workplace bullies show up, as I stated, months and even years later in places they know you go, famously public parks and gyms where you volunteer, or places that you frequent socially, bars, clubs, and restaurants. Mariah Carey sang "Why You So Obsessed With Me," and years later it's difficult to understand the answer. Workplace bullies' stalking behaviors are so completely and totally fucking crazy and sick that any normal person would be absolutely mortified if anyone ever found out that they had done something like that. Why are workplace bullies so obsessed with the target? They're doing oppo research, opposition research. They're data mining, trying to get your number and trying to get ammunition to use against you. Stalking is part of the war phase of the elimination phase of workplace bullying. At this point, the objective is very much to get rid of the target by getting her fired. And workplace bullies can't very well get you fired on the grounds of their own jealousy. So they have to come up with something. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And these people are going to desperate lengths. They're also digging pretty deep. Did they notice that the third eyelash from the right is not completely in alignment with all of the other eyelashes? But that doesn't explain why workplace bullies continue to stalk the target long after the target has already been eliminated from the workplace. Why do they do that? The answer is simple: narcissism. One of my theories about workplace bullying is that bullying is an addiction. Bullies are addicted to bullying, and they are addicted to the target. I'm serious. I'm going to keep saying it until I see it in the DSM. Bullies are addicts because they are narcissists. Narcissism is on a continuum. So it can range from your everyday run-of-the-mill garden variety jerk to someone who radiates so much evil that you cannot stand to sit in the same room with him. But all workplace bullies are narcissists or have narcissistic tendencies. And narcissists need supply. In fact, narcissists cannot live without supply any more than you can live without air to breathe. Bullies are addicted to the target because the target is the supply. Workplace bullies continue to stalk you after you have been eliminated from the workplace because they have not secured a new source of supply. This is your proverbial narcissistic ex who dumps you and then is seen later driving past your house. Your ex does not love you and does not want you back. They just miss their punching bag. Workplace bullies miss their punching bag. Stupidly, employers who up until that point had been consistently enabling narcissistic workplace bullies have not hired a new employee to serve as the new source of supply. It's like giving a pacifier to a baby. Here's your new toy, little Johnny. Try not to touch the other kids, okay? If employers want to do anything about narcissistic stalking in the workplace, they need to have a new employee lined up and ready to go before the target is eliminated. Being stalked by workplace bullies is sad, creepy, disturbing, and sometimes downright scary, but if anything, it underscores the cataclysmic, all-consuming emptiness of workplace bullies. I like etymology and find it interesting that the verb stalk originates from roots for the verb steal. Narcissists are takers, and workplace bullies are thieves, poachers, who spend all day, every day running around taking other people's stuff, other people's husbands, other people's careers, other people's jobs, other people's work, other people's creative ideas and creative projects, other people's hobbies, other people's connections, clients, contacts, friends, family members, and even other people's literal, physical, material, personal possessions and items. Narcissists take anything that they think is important to you. A narcissist is at the core a dead and empty soul with absolutely no real internal life or self that needs constant supply, and that has to constantly source that supply exclusively from other people because the narcissist is completely disconnected from spirit. When you're standing in the same room with a workplace bully or any narcissist, you can feel the emptiness, and you can feel this nasty taking energy from this empty person who is trying to fill the void with your stuff, your work, your talent, skill, ability, your imagination and creativity, your words and ideas, your energy and your spirit. Only it's never enough. Their greed is insatiable. Workplace bullies are effectively sleazy, scumbag, slimeball record label executives who don't shave and wear too much cologne and gold chains with chest hair. I find it interesting that narcissism is particularly rampant in predominantly capitalistic societies, where talentless hacks at the top with no real talent of their own exploit, take advantage of, and capitalize from people at the bottom with real talent who do real work. There is an expression in English, get a life. What does it mean to get a life? Having a life does not mean that you have 1 million Instagram followers and hit the club 4 nights a week. Having a life means having a rich internal life. I am a single woman who has lived alone in 1-bedroom studio apartments without a cat for almost a quarter of a century. And I have more of a life than anyone who has ever bullied me in the workplace, including people with spouses and multiple houses and children. Narcissists are nasty, they're mean-spirited, they are rude, ugly people, but their worst crime of all is that they are boring, because they are so empty. And you would rather drive a railroad spike through your face than sit across the dinner table from any of these people. They say imitation is the highest form of flattery, but there is nothing flattering about being stalked by workplace bullies, or anyone for that matter. At the very least, it's just weird. At worst, it makes me mad, and that's because it doesn't pay. Attention is currency. We associate stalking with celebrities because celebrities have the resources to deal with it. Celebrities attract people who become obsessed with them, and celebrities tolerate all of the obsessive, weird, salacious, lurid, morbid, ogling, leering, and staring absolutely everywhere they go, because they're laughing all the way to the bank. No one's paying me Kylie Jenner's money. If workplace bullies were not such completely irrational narcissists, instead of obsessing about me, they would go down the street to the grocery store and get a copy of Life and Style or In Touch Weekly, to stare instead at photoshopped images of Kim Kardashian's olive oil-coated ass. That's what celebrities are there for. When we're talking about workplace bullies, we are talking about no boundaries and no empathy. And I'm going to go ahead and add to those a complete lack of self-awareness and a complete lack of social skills. When you watch workplace bullies trying to interact with a target or anyone in the workplace, it's this utterly awkward and cringeworthy performance that almost makes you feel sorry for them. You would think that if workplace bullies wanted to get to know you, they would simply suit up and show up. Make eye contact, sit across the table from you at eye level, and muster the courage to articulate 4 words: hi, how are you? Instead, it is months and years of staring at your computer screen, staring at your phone, walking past your workspace, driving past your residence, and showing up where you go by people who never simply ask you how you are doing. So that's an introduction to the workplace bullying technique of stalking. To read more in detail, I've written an essay on workplace bullying. It's on my website. I include that information in the description. The reason I create this video series is to establish a forum where targets of workplace bullying can share their stories and experiences in a kind of support group, so you can know, number one, you're not crazy. Workplace bullying is real, and your feelings are completely valid and justified. And number two, you're not alone. Unfortunately, countless others have experienced the same thing. So I look forward to reading your comments, and I promise to try to respond to each one. Take care.